playoff Rondo, who's averaging just over 12 points and 7 assists in the series. But Coach Frank Vogel took it even further, saying Rondo's got a, quote, genius mind. Yeah, he does. Joined by Slick Rick, NBA analyst, Ric Bucher. But Marcellus, you're up first. Have the Lakers found their big three? Rondo. Don't laugh.
Let me hurry up and get through this because this is laughable. Y'all trying to tell me that the Pelicans 2.0 of 2017 just swap out Boogie and give me a 3-year older LeBron James? That's the big three for the Lakers? Y'all gonna roll that out in the Western Conference Finals, if y'all make it, and play against the Clippers with that? What the hell are y'all trying to do? We already saw this. How did that work out for the Pelicans? How's that going to work out for the Lakers? Look, the Lakers are looking good against Houston, playing against a small ball team that it was really shoot for the stars, but probably land a lot smaller, a lot shorter than that. And that's what the Houston Rockets have done. They kind of ran out of fuel, rocket fuel. But the thing is, please, don't start making this a big three conversation with those three guys. Because remember, before the season, I talked to Kyle Kuzma, and he told me, hey, why they ain't saying the big three? And that was supposed to be Kuzma. Coming into the playoffs, it was supposed to be Kuzma. And now it's Rondo, Pelicans 2.0, swap out Bron? Come on, man, that ain't gonna work.
Marcellus, you've done a lot of
that ain't it.
disrespectful things. You've said a lot of hurtful words to me over the 2-3 months that we've done this show together.
Already?
Don't ever say nothing as disrespectful as comparing LeBron James to Boogie Cousins a day in your life. But the LeBron James could be 70 years old, and I don't want you to fix your lips to compare LeBron to Boogie, but I'm not going to get distracted by your offensiveness. I'm going to focus on my point. Let me calm down.
Okay.
They have found their big three. And they found their big three because the third person in LeBron's big three is never needed to be a killer. Let's go back to Miami Heat. Let's talk about Chris Bosh. The big two, you had Bron, you had D-Wade. But Bosh, in their finals wins, he only averaged, 14 and 9 in 2012. Then 2013 finals, he only averaged 11 and 9. So it's not as if Bosh was giving you 25, 15, and 5. We don't need that third person to be an assassin. Okay, fast forward, 2016 finals, last time LeBron won himself a chip. Kevin Love, he was the third person. You had Bron, you had Kyrie, and you had K-Love. Love only averaged 8 and 7. That third person doesn't need to be a killer. That third person needs to be serviceable and have the ability to be lethal for small moments and chunks at a time, or have the ability to be consistently good throughout the course of the game. Rondo, since he's been back, well, 3 games ago, after he brushed off the dirt on his shoulders,
you want to count that first one?
Chill out. 3 games ago, he gave you 10 and 9, plus 28. And then 2 games ago, he gave you 21 and 9. Then last game, he basically gave you a triple-double, 11, 10, and 8. The third person, Marcellus, has never needed to be some sort of killer. Third person doesn't need to give you 30 points. The third person needs to give you valuable and consistent minutes. That's exactly what Rondo has done. So I see that you're speaking out a little bit of your fear. You know, you're worried, a little trepidatious that your Clippers are in danger. But more than anything, more than even this topic, just don't ever disrespect LeBron, King James, again. Slick.
The Lakers have found, well, that was a lot of words, Acho, to squeeze out of a 3-game sample size against the Houston Rockets team that has not done a whole lot as far as effort and energy is concerned. The Lakers have found their biggest three. That's right. Kuz was supposed to be there. They realized he's not going to fit that model. Who else do we got? Anybody else raise their hand? Oh, Rondo. Rajon, you in the back? Yeah, let's give it a shot. Let's see if we can make this work. You can be part of our big three. It doesn't make for a big three. The reason that Rondo's numbers are as similar to when he played in Boston many, many years ago, because he's probably playing with 2 of the best players that he's had since that time. But you have to take into account ultimately who they are playing. Desperate times call for desperate measures, and I'm going to take a page out of Marcellus's book.
What?
Full screen. Give me the full screen. Because if we're talking about a big three, we're not talking about a big three against the Houston Rockets. We're talking about a big three that can get you to the NBA Finals. Let's just take a look at the difference between Rajon Rondo playing against the Los Angeles Clippers, who have multiple individual defenders and much more length and size, versus what he's done against the Houston Rockets. And now that you've given me the full screen, we can go back to playing the highlights of Rondo against Houston, because if you'll note, there is yards of space between him and anybody else when he's shooting the ball. Rondo's good enough. Oh, look at that. You know what? Oh, free lane. Give it to me. Rondo can do that against the Houston Rockets team. He's not going to be able to do that against the Clippers.
Acho, that was for you, Acho. Hey, is 14% from three, is that good or bad? I just started watching basketball, Acho. Is that good or bad?
I assume my printout of this full screen is in black and white to remind us how dated the statistics on the paper
that boy is
are.
talented.
You telling me about old news, Slick? That's why I don't read old news, because you can't garner a lot of information, Slickety-rickety, from old news. Remember, Slick, of all the players in the bubble, who has the freshest legs? That's Rondo. How?
Them old brittle legs.
Okay.
Them old Uncle Benefield legs.
Talk about young, what you say? Talk about young legs on a lot of games. Didn't you say fatigue makes a coward out of all men?
Yeah,
exactly.
Well,
and Rondo ain't fatigued yet. Dude played 4 games. Now, shall I fast forward? He is old, but can we talk about that experience? Of all the dudes in the bubble, Rondo's also top 20 when the active players of most playoff games played. So, Slick, I understand what you are saying.
Get him, Slick.
And I'm not totally, in totality, going to disagree with what you're saying.
You better not.
But all we need is that third person. I say we as the Lakers. That third person needs to be serviceable, Slick. They don't need to give you 20. Rondo, he might not give you 20, but he'll give you plus 28 and plus or minus. He's out there getting it done.
By the way, Lemon Pepper Lou and Montrez, we're going to talk to you about fresh legs and not having expended themselves. Those two guys seem to be just rounding into form at this point, and they weren't playing from the start. But we're looking at, and you are looking at, Rondo purely through offensive eyes. And yes, the games against the Clippers were the regular season, but I also had 48 regular season games in which he was averaging 7 points, 5 assists, and 3 rebounds. That's a sight lower than what he has been averaging in 3 games against the Rockets. Let me re-emphasize that. Please. 3 games against the Rockets. So ultimately, I can't take those 3 games and say this is who Rondo is. By the way, playoff Rondo is a real thing. His headiness in the postseason, his IQ, all of that is true. But you know what else? 34 years old. Let's see him try to defend the multiple attacking players that the Clippers have. He doesn't have to do a whole lot of work at that end. He can gamble against the Rockets.
Here's where I disagree with y'all, because we're talking about minimal data as if it's not serviceable, right? Well, Rondo's only played 4 games. He's only contributed in 3. Remember, the Lakers only have to win, if my math is right, 9 more games to be NBA champions. So even if Rondo just catches lightning in a bottle for 9 games, that's all the Lakers have to win to be champions. So, Slick, I don't need another 80, 90, 100 game, 82 game sample size. If Rondo just keeps up what we've seen the last 3 games for only 9 more winning performances, that's all they need.
And that would be what? That would be 14 games? How many playoff games has Rondo played in any postseason since his Boston days some 7, 8 years ago?
Oh.
He's only played the max a total of 9 in any one postseason. And those 9 after the first round weren't very good against Golden State. So the idea that he's going to be able to maintain this, that he's even going to stay healthy for 14, 15 games, is a roll of the dice.
Yeah, man. Let me just button this up with some numbers, talking about why the Clippers have a better offense. The Clippers have a better defense in terms of points per game. Number 1, Clippers. Field goal percentage, 49.6, Clippers. And we're not even talking about we got a big 3 over there, but the Lakers are. Jamal Murray, hottest player on the planet in the bubble, went from 31 points a game to 17. That's Jamal Murray. Send us Rondo, please. But Acho doesn't like old news, but, you know, I'm a historian. I love old news. Let's look at an old photo of a younger Rondo, a younger AD, and a healthy Boogie. How did that turn out? So now you're going to make 2 of those guys older, even though one's still in their prime, and swap